This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back into another episode of Viterbi Voices, the podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma. I'm the Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Paus, and I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering.
And joining us is no stranger to the podcast. Stephen, why don't you introduce yourself and let everybody know a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Stephen Lewis. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering from Orange County, California.
All right, Stephen, and you bring to us, I think it's a very common thing at USC. I think maybe people have heard about it here or there, but I think it's pretty unique as far as colleges go. But you bring us a podcast about a really cool class at USC. Why don't you tell everybody about what they're about to listen to?
Yeah, no, so it was a really cool class that I just happened, I heard about it maybe like freshman, sophomore year. Some of my friends took it and I finally had space in my schedule for a sailing class. So essentially the class, you learn about the fundamentals of sailing and ocean safety, and then you actually go on a one-day sailing expedition.
Now, remind me the actual official title of the class. It's not sailing. It's
Yeah, it is not NAUT, Nautical 301A.
Nautical? Like nautical what? Isn't it something else?
It's like Nautical Science.
Nautical Science, that's what it is. Nautical Science, and it is a very cool class, a very unique class where you learn all about sailing. And I don't think there's much more we should say about it, other than let's just get straight into it. Stephen, you can take it from here and let everybody know about your guys' experience in our sailing class.
Hey Gianna, how's it going?
I'm good, Steven. How about you?
Doing good. Enjoying my time after break. And why don't you go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction, just your name, major, hometown?
Yeah, well, I'm Gianna. I'm a junior studying computer science games, and I am from Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. All right, so the first thing I kind of just wanted to start off with was we've taken the sailing class last semester, and I guess the first thing is, as an engineer, was it easy to fit this into your classes? Was it something you thought you were going to be able to do?
Yeah, I kind of, looking back, I always try to schedule a fun 2-unit each semester to kind of break things up. Some semesters it's not possible, and I just have to kind of, make do with what I got. But this semester especially, I just had the open room, and it was between that and like ballroom dancing or something. And I thought, why not? When else am I going to get a chance to try sailing? So it actually fit in pretty well. The class isn't that demanding, at least time-wise. So that's the thing with an engineering schedule, is just limited time. And I think that's what made it more doable, is that, it wasn't taking up a huge amount of my time, and I could just really fit it right where I needed it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think it was probably one of the first semesters where I truly had time for a fun class, because previously I took some minor courses and whatnot, but it was just there was space in my schedule. This semester was kind of the same thing for me as a senior, and yeah, I just thought sailing, that sounds cool. I want to learn how to sail. So yeah, no, I agree with that. And yeah, kind of moving a little more onto the sailing matter. What was could you kind of just give a rundown of how the class structure was? Were we out there the entire time sailing? How much were we actually learning and all that?
Yeah, I really did not know what to expect. I don't know about you, Stephen, but I know coming in, we were given zero information. So I was super confused. I showed up to the class. It was a Monday night lecture for 3 hours. And the professor said that he's like, okay, we're only doing 5 actual in-person lectures. So it's just once a week for 3 hours. And then after week 5 or week 6, if we have a holiday or something, then you don't meet anymore, which I thought was interesting and also kind of nice, because I got my Monday nights back. But he basically just gave us all the info we needed, the terminology, kind of info on charting and navigation, and just all of this kind of broad sailing knowledge. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. He kind of threw it all at us. And then we had one Sunday morning where we went down to the Port of LA and did a dockside demo, as he called it, and you just go see the boats. And that was pretty chill. Once again, just kind of in person learning, which was really cool. Not just looking at diagrams, you were actually like looking at the boat, which I really enjoyed. And then you signed up for a 2-day voyage, one night type of thing. And I guess that was the biggest, quote unquote time commitment, but that would even in of itself was pretty chill. And then the final, we came back for that. It was just a regular final, like any other class. So yeah, it's structured kind of interestingly in that way, but for the most part, it's just lecture, dockside demo, voyage.
No, I agree. No, I found the lectures pretty cool too because it was really
Yeah.
just like that very basic level of like telling you about like seamanship and navigation and all that. And like it's kind of interesting now when I'm in a port or I'm like on a boat or something. I'm like trying to pay a little more attention to these things. I'm just remembering like all the buoys and the number call outs and all those types of things. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of like it's kind of cool general knowledge to have. Like even if you aren't getting more into sailing, like just having that general knowledge I feel like is kind of useful. I was actually even watching I know we were talking before this about movies and stuff, but I watched The Aviator, which is just about like planes, and they still use starboard and port side on airplanes, and I had no idea. I was like, oh,
Wait, I
that's
didn't
kind of
know
cool.
that.
Yeah.
That's so fun. Honestly, I've done the same. I feel like it's good info to know so that you don't seem stupid. Like one day where you're just if someone says something, you're like, I don't know, I always kind of felt stupid about the water and like boats. So now it's kind of nice to just be like, oh yeah, well, I know what type of mast that is. Like
Main mast, foremast.
aft, all the directions, yeah. But even yeah, in shows too. I guess I've realized, yeah, port side or port, starboard, like oh my gosh. And reading a map, honestly, I mean, I don't know. I'm a Gen Z kid. I rely on GPS and I know my streets and stuff, but I don't know. We've never really had to read maps in that way. And I certainly hope I never get stuck in a situation where I have to like rely on a compass or something. But if we do, we're fully prepared now.
Yeah, no, that was actually probably one of the like most useful things I thought that we did when like essentially they gave us like this short lesson while we were on the boat about kind of charting where you are based on a map and using a compass and looking at major, I guess you could kind of say monuments like peninsulas or something like that that you could easily see. And we were able to chart like exactly where we were in the middle of the ocean and which way we're heading and all that type of stuff. And that was pretty cool. I'm like, now if I'm ever lost in sea, at least I'll have I feel like a lot of the things is like basic survival preparedness. It's like if something ever terrible happens to me, I'll have some basic navigation skills.
Maybe something will come back to me. Not to mention we did when we had to do that on the sailing voyage, like chart and everything, it was like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
We did it while tired and groggy and like barely any light from our flashlight.
Yeah,
I'm pretty proud of that.
that was pretty good. Yeah, no, yeah, for those of you listening, essentially what they did was on our night aboard, um we signed up for these time shifts essentially to make sure because we were just floating in the ocean. We were anchored down, but just due to the depth of the anchor, you could really float like a good distance. So we just wanted to make sure we wouldn't get too close to any landmass. So they had us, all the students, wake up between like I don't know. I think they started it at 11 p.m. until like 6 a.m. or something. You would sign up for an hour time shift that really turned into 2 hours because they had you teach the next students what to do in order to make sure everything is safe for the night. Um, so essentially, we get woken up like we were like sleeping all comfortably, and then it was like 1 a.m. and we get waken up and then we're brought over to do some charting of our position relative to certain lights out kind of in Catalina Island. And then after that, we checked what was it that the anchor was still in position, right? And then there was
Yeah,
one
I forgot
more. Was
about
it just
that.
that our light was on to so other boats would see? Was that the last thing we had to do?
I think so. I think there was like two methods of looking at like some of the navigation controls they had at the like the steering wheel. They
Oh,
had a lot of different numbers and everything. They're like, okay, look at. I can't even remember now. I feel point. I feel I feel pointless now. But I'm like, there was so much, especially because we were tired. It was kind of funny.
I
It
feel
makes you
like one of them
appreciate
was
that. Like
making sure the pressure was still good. I don't know
that's it. Like,
pressure
and it was
on.
checking like air pressure too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they had us do all that, and then it was like we finished our hours too. We woke up the next group, but then we had to like stay out there and like tell them how to do everything, and then that
Which is a
essentially like
huge liability. Well, I should not be teaching another student how to do this at 2 a.m. I barely knew it when we were doing it, but I mean, there were, I think, what, there were actual crew members out there with us.
there's the
There,
crew members. They were making sure everything was actually okay. It was just more
yeah.
of like an experiment on us to see how well we could process and learn and teach all in the matter when you're barely awake to simulate how it'd be if we're aboard a ship and like in the middle of the Atlantic just hoping for the best.
Oh my gosh. That whole trip was, it was so fun, but it seems like a fever dream now. It's so funny.
Really, I totally feel that. Yeah.
It was so fun though. Like honestly, when I knew getting off of that boat, I mean, I think the other reason it was kind of a fever dream to me was I got one of those sea sickness patches that
Oh
the
yeah.
captain recommended. Put it on. He said put it on the night before we were supposed to leave, so I did. And I woke up and I felt, and I was like, okay, am I really feeling this or am I like just faking it, you know? And I felt a little different walking. I don't know if I ever told you this, Stephen, but um, the second day of the trip, like I'd had on the patch for about like, I don't know, like 2.5 days by that point. And we got off the boat and I took it off and oh my gosh, it helped so much. I didn't feel sick at all. I felt so good sleeping. Like it was great. I would do it again in a heartbeat. However, this is what I don't know if I told you. I genuinely lost my nearsightedness. I'm already blind, like I can't see far distances. So nearsightedness is all I've got. And I woke up the next day and I couldn't see anything. Like within, I'd say uh, up to 2 inches. I could only see 2 inches, and like that was it. Everything else was blurry. And it was this, oh my gosh, it was the weirdest thing. I freaked out. I texted my parents. I'm like, I'm blind. This is it. This is how it goes. Like and I realized it was a side effect. I looked it up and it was a side effect of the patch
Yeah.
specifically. It said like blurred near vision. And I was like, thank God. But you know what? It didn't, it took a week. It took a week for it to come back.
Oh my
I
gosh.
genuinely, yeah, I couldn't, I looked like, like a, a mom out here texting, with my hand a whole 2 feet from my face because I couldn't read anything.
So did you just have like a solid like 3 feet of vision between like it being 2 feet away and 5 feet away essentially during that period of time?
During that period of time, if I didn't have my glasses on, there was no part of my vision where I could just see clearly. Usually, when I'm like have my glasses off and I look at my phone within, I don't know, like a half a foot, I can see everything very clearly, perfectly, like everything's good. And then when I put my glasses on, when I had the weird vision stuff going on, I had to hold it pretty far out to get any distance. Like then I became farsighted and I had to rely on like looking far distances. It was bad in class. Thankfully, I stuck to the back of the room for the first time in my life. It was I would totally do it. This is not an anti-endorsement for this. Definitely worth it on the boat. But afterwards, it was a trippy experience.
So you would still put it on again in hopes that not
Totally.
getting seasickness is greater than after effects of not being able to see.
Temporary blindness was worth it because there were kids who I remember there were a couple kids who were sick
Yeah, yeah.
and they weren't having a fun time. And I genuinely was vibing the whole I don't know. I don't know, did you take anything? Were you completely fine on your own?
Yeah, I was completely fine. I think I don't know. I don't know how much it is like being used to it and how much it is just like who you are or genetic or something. Because
Yeah.
like I remember just growing up, like my uncle had a boat and I like went on it like a few times. He took us like rafting, which was a lot of fun, and just like threw us around all over the place. And I never got seasick then. So, but it was a long time since I've gone on a boat, like a solid 5 years. But I'm like, yeah, like I'm not gonna do that. I'm fine, and I ended up being fine. So it worked out for the best.
That's good. I feel like I was just like not willing to take any chances, but I feel like a lot of people were totally fine, except for, and we had really calm seas.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
For the
for
people that did get
November,
seasick, like they must be hypersensitive because
yeah.
there was I guess the funniest thing that we should let our listeners know is there was no wind our entire sailing trip.
Not we used the engine. No sailing boat has an engine, typically they said, but like or like has a backup engine or something. But the whole time we did all the sail stuff, didn't we? But for
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, yeah, they were just like essentially because they're like, well, took you out to learn how to sail, so we unfurled the sails, we learned tying the knots, securing the rope, or no, not ropes, it is
Line.
lines. If you
Come
ever
on,
say
Steven.
rope on a ship, they will be like, you're not a sailor. So remember,
You don't
it's
know what you're
line.
talking about.
So we secured the lines, and the sails were all open and stuff, but there wasn't any wind pushing it, so they were just kind of flapping around, not really doing anything as we moved.
I forgot about that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time on these sails, and I
We spent so
remember,
much time
did you end up climbing up the sails in the end to like tighten
to
it?
time up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did that the night when they needed to time up for the night. We were able to climb. You could climb the mast during the day, and you climbed to the first spot, which was just kind of like lookout, and you could see things, and you could still access part of the sail. But then you had to keep going further up the mast. I mean, how tall would you say that first part was? How many feet would you say? I'm really bad at gauging that. It was like
Um,
20.
yeah, I feel like it's something like two stories high, maybe two and a half stories
Yeah.
high.
Okay, yeah. So like 25 feet up or so. 25, 30. Yeah. And you climbed up there first with no harness clip-in. So you're just like on this rope on the side of the
Yeah.
like or netting, I should say, off the side of the boat. So if you fall, you're falling onto the deck, you're falling into the ocean. I would prefer the ocean. And then you clip in once you get to the top, and then you're totally fine. But I think the scariest part was at night when they had us furl the sails and time up and everything. We could go higher, and then there was a portion where you're, oh my goodness, you're a solid 45 feet in the air. I'd say like I'm pretty sure. Oh my goodness. And I love heights, honestly, so it was really fun. But there was a point where you have to unclip and you're completely unattached to anything.
Okay, yeah.
And yeah, and that's when I was like, oh, this is slightly dangerous. And then there's a portion where you're standing on basically like a little tight wire, like tightrope type of thing, balancing on it with your feet and then tying up the masts or the sails, sorry. And that's when I was like, I'm gonna lose my balance. And I thankfully I was clipped in, but like, I don't know, you're still pretty high up. So that was really cool, but also I don't know. I'd probably do. Did you get a chance to do that, Stephen?
I didn't. I only did the free climb up. I didn't end up. I was kind of looking at it. I'm like, I don't really feel like doing this, and then I decided not to do it.
No, if you're any hesitation, once I was up there, I was having a good time. But then when it came to come down, I was like, oh, this, I can't think about it. I just got to go down.
Yeah, no, I remember too. Yeah, I think the sketchiest part is when you're like going backwards and you're just not clipped into anything, and it's just you're just like, well,
Yeah.
hopefully my feet keep landing on the right like rungs of this rope ladder thing.
Yeah. No, you just don't think about it. And then you're down, you're like, okay. But then you look up again, you're like, oh, I was up there.
Yeah, no, that was
That
definitely
was a
an
fun part.
interesting thing. Yeah, do you also want to run down? I guess like we've kind of been talking about it in bits and pieces, but kind of like everything that we kind of went through while aboard the ship.
Yeah, and definitely fill in where I forget because I probably will forget pieces. But like I know we started you go to the Port of LA. We got lost trying to
Oh
find
my
it.
gosh. That was so
We almost
bad.
didn't make the boat.
Do not trust Apple Maps. Well, like we were just given go to this place and there was like
It
no
was
other
this
information. So we're like, all right, we put
it
it
was
in
like
Apple Maps.
Birth 78 or something. We're like, okay, great, but like you can't find that unless you know the port.
Yeah,
Uh,
we were taken to the port of Long Beach, not the port of LA.
oh my gosh. That was so you know what, it worked out. We were fine, we were on the boat. But for a portion there, I was like, well, we tried.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
gonna
so we got
miss
to
it. We're
the
gonna miss
we
it.
were fine. Yeah, so we got there and we actually had plenty of time. I think they just told us an early time to scare us. And then our boat, we were lucky. We had two dogs on board, which was really fun. So we hung out with the dogs for a bit and you kind of just are waiting for them to set sail. We started off with some easy map navigation. They just had a map out on the big table and the in the jacuzzi, as they called it, this little like sitting
The
table
jacuzzi. Oh
area.
my gosh. They kept that made me want there to be like if I
And
ever own a
actually,
boat, I'm gonna figure out a way to have a jacuzzi, a real jacuzzi inside it. And it's
right
like,
on
okay,
deck
guys, let's gather in the jacuzzi.
and actually get it. Yeah. And it was, I mean, it was slightly chilly at the beginning. It wasn't too bad yet. Um, but yeah, so we just did some navigation real quick with two of the instructors, and then they split us into groups and took us around the boat, and kind of told us like where we, which what sails were connected to which ropes, like which or lines, sorry, and which lines connected, like needed to be tied, which ones we would be doing, that kind of thing. And then we set off and they split us into three groups. One was doing navigation, one was doing systems check, like boat check, and then cleaning the deck, I think. And then another one was going up the mast. Um, so the group that was doing like navigation and steering, they were up by the helm and they were like actually getting to steer, which I don't think we got to do, but we got to see it, which was cool. When we did the systems like boat check thing, we just basically went all around the actual vessel. We went down to the engine room and to the it was loud. It was loud there and hot. And it was just interesting to see the actual like mechanics of the boat. And then we had checked the anchor, I think. We did a whole kind of spec look. And then navigation, same kind of thing we did in the middle of the night that we talked about, where they just had the map out and they had us charting and figuring out, okay, what's our heading, like where are we trying to go, are we on the right heading, looking at like the landmarks nearby. And then for a while then they needed like, okay, the sails need to go down, so everyone needs to go help tie up a line or loosen a line, or and then cleaning the deck. I remember that they just started hosing down the deck, and just if you were in the way, you got
Yeah,
drenched.
you were getting hosed down. Yeah. That was
I was not prepared. I was like, okay, thank you. Didn't know we were getting showers. And then that's when everyone started to get cold, I remember. I don't
mm.
know about you, but I packed like tons of layers. So I was bundled up. And then I remember everyone just trying to like huddle and stay warm for a portion, which was kind of funny. It was also kind of a foggy day, wasn't it? So we didn't have a ton of visibility. Um, but that just made it feel like we were kind of floating in the middle of nowhere, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It really felt like we were on the ocean, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. No, and also with the I did not pack enough layers. Like I got cold and especially in the middle of the night, like I was nice and toasty. I have like a really warm sleeping bag and then had to go back outside where it was freezing and windy. I was just like, this is like I just want to sleep. Like
That really hurt. I'm not gonna lie. Except they gave us the option at night. They said we could sleep on deck in our sleeping bags or below deck in the bunks. And everyone at the beginning was like, "Oh, I'm gonna sleep on deck." And then by
Yep.
the end, when it came time to sleep, everyone's like, "I'm freezing." So I stayed on deck actually because I was like, "This is kind of sick." I'm pretty warm because I packed like ski layers, like like
Yeah.
the base thermals and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I like. I wish I did that. I was like, "Ah, I don't need that stuff. I'm fine."
Right. This is the first time I'm like, good thing I overpacked with this because I finally used it all. But yeah, so I was already on deck, but I was really cozy. I was feeling good. I honestly got the best night of sleep I'd had in like a month on top because there was just something different about like slightly rocking,
I
and
enjoy the rocking. Like it just
it
lulls
was
me to
nice.
sleep. Yeah.
So then, night came. Oh, we had meals. They gave us meals for dinner. They were pretty good. It was like pasta, big buckets of pasta, and they gave us hot chocolate, some fruit for breakfast, yogurt, things like that. Which was great. Honestly, I was pretty surprised. I thought it was just gonna be like turkey sandwiches and that's it. Um, but yeah, so then the next day woke up and we got into Catalina Island, but we didn't actually dock or anything. We just anchored off the shore. And then we headed back to Port of LA to get there we got back like mid-afternoon probably.
Yeah, yeah, mid afternoon's probably pretty.
Just kind of did the same routine as the day before, cleaning. It was a lot of cleaning. That's the one thing I learned. I just do a lot of cleaning there. And then it was a lot of like, tying up the lines, making sure everything's set, like you can go up the mast one more time. They also had that, I don't know what it's called, the netting or ropes. It wasn't
Mm,
line because it was, that was under
yeah,
the
I don't know what it was called, but it was just at the front of the ship, just this. It kind of seemed like a safety net, like if in case you're ever
yeah.
gonna do something over there, if you fall, there's this net. They're just like you could chill over there. So,
You just go in the net.
yeah, so we were just hanging in the net for a period of time on our way back, which was pretty fun.
Didn't a girl dropped her glasses in the water?
Did she? I missed
She
that
was
part.
she was in the net because I asked her, I'm like, oh, where'd your glasses go? She goes, in the ocean.
Oh, I think I do remember that girl.
I, I
It's
felt so
coming
bad.
together.
hmm Yeah, no, I mean the day kind of went. Oh, we saw so many dolphins. Remember?
Oh yeah, there
I
was
think we saw.
dolphins on both sides of the ship,
Oh,
kind of just riding the wake. It was really cool.
that was really cool. And they were jumping out. I don't know. There was a ton at one point. I've never seen that many dolphins in my life, let
Yeah,
alone at
it
one
felt like
point.
hundreds. Like there was hundreds of
Yeah,
dolphins.
it was a true pod.
Yeah, yeah.
And they did that twice for us, I think. Just kind of along the ship and then nearby, which is crazy.
No, that was
I
cool.
think,
Also, we saw bioluminescent water, which was pretty cool. It was
yeah,
at night. The one of the crew members, he like just got a bucket of ocean water and like spun his finger around, and it was bioluminescent light, which was
they had like
pretty.
all the like algae and the different fish that would glow too.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so
no, if
cool.
when the oh yeah, that's why we saw a bunch because there's I think there was a bunch of seals around us and
That's right.
they kept jumping like up and down the water and as they moved you would kind of see like a trail of like blue light following them, which was really cool.
So cool. Yeah. Oh gosh, I totally forgot about that. I know. Then we picked up a random but it looked like a little blow up rescue boat type of thing, just like a
Oh
lifeboat.
yeah.
And that was slightly concerning because no one was in it. And it was just the boat. So I think they sent out a message like to all nearby boats and we're like, if you see someone in the water, like we found a lifeboat with no one in it. But it looked like it just got loose of a boat. Like there
Yeah.
was nothing in it to seem like there had been someone in it. So it just like slipped off the actual deck of a boat.
Yeah, no, I think that was exactly it. Or it was like cuz it was just like some canoe raft looking thing that just like
Yeah.
probably like my guess is it came from one of the camps in Catalina and just floated away or something. That's like just got unattached or something from whatever wherever they hold all that stuff. That's what I think. So
That would make sense, honestly. And that was the big like event. I don't know. There wasn't anything drastic or dramatic that happened. I mean, thankfully, honestly,
yeah,
because that would have been kind of nerve-wracking.
yeah, no, there is no actual man overboard. They did some drill where they threw a buoy overboard and then like we pretended that it was a person or it was like a basketball. I don't know, something weird like that.
I
Um,
forgot about that.
but no one actually went overboard, which I was kind of surprised. I thought it would have happened.
Genuinely, I thought so too. And I have to say, I I really I didn't think about the other students we'd be on the trip with. I didn't think about it much. I just knew that like I was gonna be on it with you and Paul is supposed to be on it with us, but then they didn't get his COVID test back to him, which sucked. But all I know, I remember is just everyone was so nice. Genuinely, like I think it was the nicest, just wholesome group of people where everyone was like, "Oh, we're stuck in a boat for 2 days. Might as well become good friends." And then like we might not see each other afterwards. I've ran into a couple of them, which is pretty funny. But for the most part, just like everyone was willing, no one had their little groups, everyone was just talking, wanted to talk with everyone else. I really had fun with them.
No, I totally agree with that. I was like thinking about it and I'm like the only other experience I could really relate to this experience on this ship is kind of like welcome week when we first got to USC, and it was just this time where everyone is kind of new there, like maybe you know your roommate's like a little bit better, or you had a friend from high school that also is at the same university. But it was that same type of atmosphere where it's like everyone's here just to meet people, and you're just like walking around, talking to some people, becoming friends with these people, and then like later in the day you're over here talking to these people, and it's just kind of this very friendly time where everyone's just kind of like there to hang out. And it was like just like emphasize more when you're stuck on a boat together with a lot of downtime and nothing really specific to do. No one was on their phones. I thought that was kind of the coolest part. Like everyone was just there to like hang out. Like no one was there like on their phone the entire time. Even though I think we had signal most of the time. It was just didn't feel right, I guess.
No, honestly, I don't think I like really even thought about work that I had to do. I was like, you know what, I'm on a boat. Like there's only so much you could do. And I think you're right. I don't remember anyone really having their phones out except to take pictures,
Yeah.
which was fun. And then yeah, I hardly looked at my phone because I didn't even have to charge it, I remember. And then you just kind of, yeah, you floated around. Welcome Week is a good explanation for it. I was thinking like summer camp too,
Yeah, I
where
was
like you're,
thinking that. I was like scout camp or something. Like
yeah.
it's kind of just this time where there's just people there that just want to have fun, and you're there with them and there's no one else to try to go to, so you're just talking and having a good time.
And everyone's out of their element. I think that's what made it really fun and like more of a camaraderie is that we all had no idea what we were doing really. This No one was an experienced sailor. No one had been in a situation like this before. So we all were kind of figuring it out together. There was no pressure or anything, and it was mostly just us laughing. And everyone was very nice about opportunities. It wasn't a very, like, oh, only certain number of kids could climb the mast at certain times. So like there was a chance you might not be able to climb the mast. But they were very, it was not a me first kind of environment. Everyone was like, oh, you go ahead. Like you really want to do this. And it was really nice because they're like, oh, who wants to raise this line? And if someone's been like, oh, I really want to do it, everyone would let them do it. It wasn't like fighting over things.
Yeah, no, it was like just this like charismatic group of people that were just there in support of each other to enjoy a nice sailing trip for a
Yeah,
weekend.
right. It's a true sailing trip environment.
True. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm totally with that. Yeah. And I guess kind of in retrospect, like, what do you think was the best part of this trip and this entire experience?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question because I feel like I could say, oh, I learned so much, which I did. I think that was one of the cool parts is just maybe just the novelty of it is that I will not get an experience like this again, probably, unless I really seek it out. I mean, I'm from Arizona, so it's not like there's much
Yeah.
water here. Um, it was just something so different and so unique to USC, I think, or, some type of school that's near the ocean that they even offer this type of class. Um, and that I got to take it as an engineer too. I think that was something that was so fun to me. I think the other thing was just the people. Yeah, the whole experience in my mind is something I'm going to remember for a long time and something that I still like bring up at home when I'm talking about school with my parents or something. It's just, I love looking at the photos too. Like you can tell we're all having a good time. I think my favorite part was just being on the boat with a bunch of other USC students who may or may not be engineering, may or may not have any, connection to me at all. And yet we're all having a good time, raising lines, navigating, climbing a mast. Like, what kind of strange experience is that?
Yeah, it was such a like living in the moment type of experience. Like you weren't thinking about anything else. You weren't worried about other people's perceptions of yourself. You were just there enjoying your time. Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you with like just the novelty of the experience. Like it's just something that you really can't get anywhere else. And then I also think like I am very happy with like the very basic beginner knowledge that I got from this trip, especially as someone who loves the ocean and maybe not immediately will get into sailing, but in the hopes in the future that I might spend more time in the water doing it is kind of something that I'm like I like that I got this introductory level to just kind of get the basics of it in my head, and then when I actually want to learn it, at least I know what I'm getting into. It's not like I'm gonna be surprised at everything that's happening.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't really think about it because one of my good friends actually is from Massachusetts, and she multiple times has said, now that you've done this class, like you'll have to come out and I'll take you sailing because she's been sailing since she's like 12
Okay, yeah.
alone, it's crazy. So I think it is something that I don't really think about as a normal activity or something that people do normally. So now it's kind of cool to just have it in the back of my mind that if it should ever occur, I can get on a boat and, have some knowledge or watch movies more intelligently, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it is interesting because I had this coworker last summer, and like he's from Rhode Island or something, and like sailing is his thing. Like he'll just sail by himself on a weekend, just enjoy the moment. He's just there for sailing, and I think it's a really cool thing. So yeah, I'm hoping I'll get more into it. I think I have too many things that I want to get into though. I'm like I really want to try scuba diving. That hopefully will happen somewhat soon. There's also like it was kind of crazy because during the sailing class, I forgot his name, but one of the guys we were talking to in it, he's he's already scuba certified. But USC offers like a scuba research type class where you just go scuba diving and you're like studying the ocean landscape or coral reefs or something like that. And like that's also a class at USC where you get a scuba dive for free essentially. I'm like, man, I wish I was scuba certified already.
That's sick. That's something I want to do too. And I think I also want to take the surfing class. Um, because like you're already a pro surfer, Steven, but we went surfing last year. You know how bad I am. But it's more so just because like I just need a little help, a little push to get out there more. But I think that's what's cool about these USC classes is they do offer something so unique that you can't turn it down, and it pushes you outside your comfort zone a bit because I mean sailing I was like, oh, it's no brainer, I've got to do it. But there's a part of me halfway through the semester and I'm like, I don't know, like do like this trip seems like kind of crazy. I don't know like if this is something I even know what to do. And then the fact that I had such a fun time doing something I had no idea what to do with and frankly was such a beginner. Um I think that's what made it so fun to me. So it makes me really want to deep dive into USC's classes because I did do a search of like other kind of those fun classes that you can
Yeah.
take, especially 2 units. Because like eventually in your engineering schedule, depending on how you set things up, sometime during your engineering 4 years, you'll have 2 units that you can use. Like I guarantee it, unless you really switch majors and change things, or pick up a minor that's very demanding, there will be an opening for something. And that's where I've really, I like my major classes and I like taking my like emphasis classes for games and things like that. But it is fun just to sneak in something that only you could get at college or at USC. I think there's some really cool ones.
No, I like totally agree with that. And there's also like it's kind of interesting to think back and like what I could have done differently, right? Like I know there's like my first few years I did hover like especially freshman and sophomore year. I was 17 or 18 units every semester. So like I still could have done though some of the 1 unit classes like there's the
Ping pong.
yeah, the physical education ones. I know one of my buddies, he took archery last semester and he was like,
Oh, sick.
yeah, he was like, it was really fun. Like I could have done some of those classes just for fun and just to enjoy it, even when I only had 1 unit free. And then,
Self-defense, I know, is one that's pretty popular, at least among my friends. And my roommate, she's a biomed engineer, and she took it and she said, like, she came out of it feeling so much more powerful.
yeah, no, that's kind of okay. This is a very personal thing for me, but like, I've never gotten into a fight, and I'm like, I should really know. Like, I need some basic way of defending myself, right? Like, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should still consider it for this semester.
Steven's planning a fight. You heard it here first. Steven's looking for a fight this semester. If anyone is down, square up with Steven in the engineering quad.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get it on pay-per-view. It'll be this whole thing. We'll have live attendance. We could make it cheap, like $5 buy-in, and then we'll
Yeah,
just split it, like just like they do in Vegas. Whoever wins gets like 60%, whoever loses gets 40%. It's a win-win situation.
it
I'm
really
ready.
is.
I'm ready. We're doing this, Gianna.
Oh my god, could you imagine how ridiculous? I honestly classes like that, the self-defense one especially, I've been wanting to take. I know some of my sorority sisters mentioned it like freshman year even, saying it's a good one. Because also just for like general safety, I don't know how much you can learn in a semester, but even if you're not looking for a fight, sometimes you get into situations like it's better to know something than to not. Like the same way with
Exactly.
sailing. Like, it's better if I'm ever on a boat and I'm stuck. Now I've got that knowledge. Like just little things that may or may not be useful now, or may just be. I think that's what we sometimes get lost with in engineering. At least I have. Maybe this is a personal thing, but like we're so focused on getting in the classes that we need, getting in these very useful practical classes that are very practice oriented or theory oriented, that all have some type of purpose to them, that we sometimes forget, at least I do, that we can just take classes to learn or enjoy for the sake of learning or enjoying them. Like it doesn't have to have some ultimate either career purpose or practical everyday useful purpose. It just could be something that an experience you know
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Like like I this all this stuff all just makes me think back, and I'm like I'm someone who really does enjoy pushing myself like academically and like taking hard classes and doing the extra above and beyond the honors and whatnot. But I'm like, man, like if I were to do this over again, I would just like personally, I would not do that and spend that time doing these different classes that I would enjoy, because I will tell you, I remember this sailing experience. I will remember this sailing experience in 5 years, 10 years. I will not remember the engineering honors symposium thing that I did. Like if I'm being honest, there are advantages to taking it, I will say that, but there's really like kind of lifelong advantages to being able to take a class like sailing or the surfing class or self-defense, ballroom dancing. I was like considering doing that this semester. I'm just like, just doesn't fit, but it's all right. I'm gonna enjoy my time elsewhere.
I think that's a really good point to make, though, is like everyone's college experience to each their own. So I mean, there's certainly things, now as a junior looking back, I'm like, oh, I wish I hadn't put so much pressure on myself in regards to certain things. I think we do that a lot, like at
Yeah.
Viterbi, where just individual pressure, we put it on ourselves. So I'm sure you felt that pressure of like, succeeding and ambition and doing well, which, it got you where you are, Stephen. Like you got it, like you're
Yeah.
doing great. So you shouldn't like regret it, I'm sure. But like at the same time, I feel like it's a very much of a balance of what do you want out of college? And sometimes you realize a little later, like what you actually wanted the whole time. And it's not even like once you leave college, you can never experience these things again. Like, you can do these things. But I definitely have had that same kind of realization where I'm like, you know what? I could kind of work myself to the bone and, come out of it stronger and, proud of whatever work I do. But at the same time, my experience at Viterbi isn't just about engineering. I love it, have a good time, love my classmates. But it's really about the holistic experience for me. That sounds cheesy, but genuinely, like if there's one thing I want out of college, I want to look back and just be like, okay, yeah, you know what? I did at least a couple things that were just completely outside my scope and comfort zone.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the main reason why I've like enjoyed my time here at USC. It's just like we do have our hard engineering classes, but I've always felt that between like the people I've met and who I've hung out with and all these other experiences, that I don't feel like I've only had an engineering education where that's been my only priority in college and the only thing I'm really worried about. I feel like it's been very holistic, and I'm kind of just here enjoying myself and trying new things. like honestly, this is a really funny one for me, but I used to be like a pretty picky eater. Like this is very random, but like I like didn't eat most things. I've never ate any type of Asian cuisine until I went to college. Just because it was like my family never ate any Asian food, so I never had a reason to try it. And then I remember the first time my roommates we went to Sawtell, which just has, you know, all those different ramen and udon places. And the first time I went there, we went to Marugame Udon. Love that place to death. Still one of my favorite places to eat at. I was like, this is really good. Like I've been missing out. And then I tried Chinese, like actual Chinese food, not Panda Express, and like it's kind of I don't know. Like there's things that do happen that kind of like now I'm so open to trying new things. Like never ate fish, now I eat fish. Like just small things like that. I feel like which are kind of cool.
That's definitely a good point in general. And honestly, I totally the way you said it with, like it's more than just an engineering experience. That's I mean, that's why I came to USC in the first place. That's why I like wanted to do engineering here rather than somewhere else. So I'm really glad that I can look back now and be like, okay, yeah, that's what this experience gave me. Even with COVID and everything that's happened, whatever, I still feel I wish things, everyone wishes things could have been different, but I feel like at the same time, I feel very lucky. And there are certainly things that I feel like um, I never would have experienced, like you said, if I hadn't gone here. And especially being in LA, I think that's
Yeah.
what's unique. And that's why like the sailing class too stuck out to me is that like we're here in LA, there's a crazy amount of food and landscapes and opportunities and entertainment that are just happening in one place.
Yeah.
If we were, in not to say any other university doesn't have their unique things too, but if I was anywhere else, I wouldn't have probably been able to do something so related to the water. And you surf every day, and I was like, you wouldn't be able to do that too. So I think that's what's so cool about being right where we are, and downtown too. I've certainly gone outside my comfort zone way more than I expected. I was always kind of adventurous, but I was kind of risk averse. I was like, I don't know if I want to be that risky or whatever. And I'm the opposite of you, Stephen. I have been eating like crazy food since I was little. I've
Okay.
just
Yeah.
eaten everything. I'm like, I don't know. My parents were always surprised when I was a kid. They're like, she eats everything and she eats a ton of it. So it's just, LA's just been a heaven for me with food. I did try Ethiopian food though for the first time.
Really, I haven't tried
With
that yet.
Yeah, with Emily Palace actually, our lovely podcast director. She and I got it one night, and it was so good. Um, it's just little things like that, like sailing, like surfing, and LA in
Could
general.
even
I
go
mean,
up
I
to
went
the
to the
mountains.
oh gosh, yeah, hiking. I went to a movie showing where they had like at cast and directors and things come. So I think one was like the director and writers of Luca, the Pixar film, and then the next week I saw Aquafina and like actually like bumped into her at the bathroom, and I was like, this is a very LA kind of experience. So it's just yeah, full circle. I've been doing a lot of thinking about it, even though I'm not a senior. I imagine you as a senior, you're probably in that like retrospective mode.
Yeah, the amount of reminiscence that goes on in my mind, Gianna, you couldn't imagine.
Stephen's very sentimental.
It's like, oh, when I was a freshman. Oh,
Do
no,
you think
I do think that like I have changed for the better in my mind, but I've changed a lot since I came into college. I am a different person. I think I'm much more who I am, really, which is probably one of the coolest things ever.
I love how this is turned from sailing was great to wow, I've grown as a person. Because
Sailing
it
has
kind of
influenced it all. It's been that
sailing
one
has
key
changed us.
factor that really transcended everything.
Sailing life changing. That's the point of this. It will turn you into a sailor. No,
All
I
right.
agree. I've thought about it a lot too. But USC, it's crazy. It's crazy to look back. I mean, like I said, I'm only a junior, but it's wild and it's funny because I call the freshmen kids, and I'm like, I'm a child too. Who I am 2 years older than these people. I still don't know what I'm doing. Like we're all in this together. That's what's so funny about it.
Yeah.
Especially as seniors, you're probably like, I'm so old. I know what I'm doing. But then at the same time, we're like, no, we're about to enter the real world.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I feel that. And I think with that, we could call this sailing podcast a close. I appreciate your time, Gianna. This was awesome. I enjoyed talking a lot.
Thank you for having me, Steven. This is great. I just felt like chatting about old times. I want to go. I want to go on another sailing trip.
We'll have to do it. We'll charter a sailing boat and send it with our minimal experience.
We'll get some other engineers who've taken it. We'll do a Viterbi sailing trip.
Awesome. And we're back. I was wondering, Stephen, so I'm taking actually the sailing class right now. And I was wondering, has this taking the sailing class changed like plans for the future? Do you plan on like making sailing a hobby now?
Yeah, no, it's actually something I've thought about a bunch because obviously you know me, I'm a huge ocean person. I love the ocean. So I definitely see it as something like I'm not taking the next class this semester just due to my schedule, but I see it something that like once I start working, it's a hobby that I'd love to explore further. It is just a cool thing because you're just really connected to the ocean when you're out there.
And nautical science, you're all taking the first class, 301A, right? That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But it should be noted that if people really get into us, there's like a lot of courses. There's about 4 sequences of courses where you kind of keep going and get more advanced as you go, right? So this is kind of the introduction. I think this is pretty cool. But do you know anyone that's continued on with the curriculum with the sequence of courses all the way through like mastering advanced seamanship?
So like during my sailing trip, we had one of the TAs was there.
Oh, cool.
So he's been, I don't know, this is maybe like his 4th class, I think, that he has taken in the nautical science department. And yeah, no, he's gotten a bunch of experience. There's actually been like, it's essentially the course it's themselves follow like to get a captain's license. You could get the amount of sea hours you need. You learn all the things a captain would need to know. So theoretically, if someone started as a freshman in these classes and the professor is Captain Lars, if you kept up with Captain Lars, you could, like, when you graduate with your normal degree, you could also be getting your captain's license around the same time if you spend enough hours in the water, which is really cool and something that I don't think any other university really has, where it's a program built so you could get a captain's license.
Right. Very, very cool. And of course, there are multiple boats too, right? There's multiple boats that are being used in this process. So which boat did you go on?
Yeah, so we went on, it was a brigantine. So one of the bigger vessels, there's about like 30 students on it, and it has like a main mast and a aft mast, something like that. But the more advanced courses, you actually go on more like two-person vessels or 4-person vessels. So in those classes, you actually get to learn a lot more about sailing. When I was in the class, we kind of just did the basics of like unfurling and furling the sails.
Right. And then how to like crew a boat basically when you're out there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Very cool. Fun fact, when I was at USC, I took this class. I went sailing with the founder of the program, which I don't know if he's involved anymore, but Captain Ron. I don't know if you guys had met Captain Ron at all.
No, I haven't.
I don't know if he's still around at all, but Captain Ron is a character. And he started that class, and I have many stories from back in the day of doing this sailing class. It was a lot of fun, and I think it's one of those cool kind of rites of passage for USC students. I think there's a few different ones at USC, really unique classes, like students love to take ballroom dancing. People love to take, maybe if it's still interested or if it's still out there, there was the Beatles class, and then surfing class, sailing class. All of them are so cool. And just really great opportunities to take advantage of to kind of just color in your academic experience and learn something new. I remember when I went on it, we're all like, oh my God, we're going to do this forever. And like, oh, I want to keep going and do sailing. And, long story short, that never happened because I think you get super excited about it and understanding how to like navigate and triangulation and all that different stuff when you're figuring out the charts, because you learn all that still, right, Stephen?
Yeah, you still do that.
But yeah, that very quickly kind of went away from me. So it was very cool. Emily, you haven't taken this class, have you? Or you have no plans for this?
I'm like taking it right now.
Oh, you're taking it right now. Okay.
Yeah. So we're at the beginning stages. We're just identifying the different parts of the boat. So
Okay, cool. I remember I can still I still know. Now of course I'm blanking on it, but starboard and port. I still remember it because of the way the way that Captain Ron gave me the shortcut to remember it is because when you see a light, so port is on your left, right, and starboard's on your right.
Yeah, it's red right return. Is it maybe that's what you're thinking about?
Yeah. So like if you see a boat in front of you, if you see red on your right side, then they're coming at you.
Red on the I do remember what you're talking about, but I'm also blanking on it now.
Meaning like when your port is on your left side, starboard's on your right side, right? When you're going forward, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that means that if a boat's coming at you, it's the opposite, right? So red lights on that. If you see red on the right and green on the left, they're coming at you and not away from you.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Yeah, it was. I remember the only reason I remember that is because red right return. I don't remember that, but what I do remember is if it's red on the right, they're coming at you, and that's red wine port, and that's how you know it was on that. It's because port wine is red. It's a stupid, silly thing, and I'm like, that's the only reason I know. It's like this backwards, really silly, convoluted way to know port and starboard for left and right.
Yeah, I remember it just because port is 4 letters and left is 4 letters, and then starboard's the other one.
Starboard's the other one. There you go.
I used to remember stuff like that, but then he gets into like, oh, this one starts with an L and this one doesn't start with an L, so they go together, and it would just get like way complicated, and I couldn't remember if it was like the yes or no way.
See, we're automatically. This is why none of us are professional seamen or sea people.
I do have to say, this sailing class, I wonder if it'll get better, but it is the most intimidating class I've ever been in because there's so much terminology that I am not familiar with at all.
Did it get better, Stephen?
Yeah, no, I think so. Like, it kind of felt nice, especially like the midterm exam. Don't worry, Emily, it's nothing crazy at all. But like, it was kind of rewarding. It was like, I remember this, like, and it's all these like terminology that's just related to like the vessel or the ocean or who has like there's a lot of stuff about like priority, like sailboat versus powerboat and stuff. And it's kind of just like good general rules of thumb if you ever find yourself on a vessel to know, I feel.
I remember being overwhelmed by terminology. Like I remember being a little stressed out until getting through. I mean, again, this was years ago, so who knows how it's being taught these days. But I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm gonna know any of this stuff. And Steven's right, but what you get tested on is not the level that you think you're supposed to know. And so you end up like, oh, I do know this stuff. This is actually kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I actually decided to audit it just because I'm doing my medical school applications too. And I was like, I don't want to be stressing out about a sailing class that I really just want to do because I want to go sailing.
I think it's a GPA increaser. I wouldn't do that.
I think it'll be okay. Like med schools they look at your science GPA, and I think it would be a stretch calling nautical.
Well, anyway, back to the fun stuff. Steven, when did you take this class again? Sorry.
Yeah, I took it last fall, so fall 2021. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good stuff. Well, Emily, enjoy the rest of this semester in your sailing class. I think you're going to really look back on it with fondness, as both Stephen and I do, and everyone else. That I've never heard anybody dislike it, as far as I know. I mean, I think everybody gets a lot out of it, and it's a really, really unique experience. And as they said back in my day, and I'm certain it still happens today, but you two, as we close out this episode, stay salty, right? Stay salty.
Always.